Welcome back, family, to the Empress Addi podcast, where the unspoken is spoken, where softness is strength, and where power returns to its rightful place within you. I'm your host, Addi, and today we're continuing the fire, not to be consumed by it, but to become it. This episode is entitled Sacred Rage and the Soft Rebellion. Because softness is not silence, and rage, when it's rooted in truth, it is sacred, clarifying, transformational. And today, I am so honored to welcome a radiant voice and healer to this conversation. She doesn't like the term, but I have to give her accolade. She is Dr. Valency Excuse, also known as V. So, V is a licensed acupuncturist, trauma informed practitioner, retreat facilitator, and speaker who has served in the South Florida community with grace and wisdom for nearly 2 decades. She brings with her today not only a deep clinical experience and understanding, but a lived commitment to healing trauma at the individual, ancestral, I'm so sorry, and collective level. I'm just like, I got caught up, right? Choked up over you, V. Her work is
I
in
understand.
her work is embodied meditation, storytelling, and emotional integration. It makes her exactly the soul we need for this dialogue, V. Welcome to this podcast.
Thank you so much, Addi. What a beautiful introduction to the podcast. Thank you for having me, and hello, everyone. It's truly a sacred. Sorry, I went too far. It's truly an honor to be here with you.
And that's okay. And so now, V, this is going to be a very easy breezy conversation, right? Even though we are touching on some very deep subjects. And when people think of rage, they have this negative attachment to what rage is, right? So let's open the dialogue by talking about rage as truth. Okay, I think that's a great place to begin. V, I often say that sacred rage is the fire that doesn't burn. It rebuilds us. And when you hear those words, what does that awaken in you as a healer, as a woman, and as someone who sits with others in their pain?
Thank you, Addi. It awakens so much in me. And before we begin, I want to say that preparing for this episode took me through my own layers of sacred rage as well as my own layers of primal rage. So everything I share here is not from a pedestal. It's from lived experience, and I've been walking through it too. So, for the most part, I will be sharing the reflection of the work that I'm doing with myself and with clients. And that distinction between primal rage and sacred rage matters so much. It's part of what we're going to explore. So I want to begin with a little bit of collective wisdom. And wisdom is knowing when to be fire in times of water and when to be water in times of fire. We are living in interesting times. Our brothers and sisters across the continent, across the great continent of Africa, are on fire. We're seeing them rising, moving, activating. But here on this side, we got the message loud and clear last November
Yes.
to retreat, to be water, to rest, and to heal. And so we listened. It takes wisdom and it takes great discernment to embody both fire and water and to know when to burn and when to flow. So I wanted to start with that so that we know how to be water so that we can live to be fire another day. There's wisdom in knowing when to be each one, because some of the collective fire across the Atlantic might cause us to abandon the call to tend to our water to cool down, to cleanse, and to soften. And so, can we be with both? Can we trust that we have both water and fire? And can we hear the call for each one so that we do not let the flame go out, that we can be water while protecting the flame? And it may be that we're being called to be water precisely because we need to protect the flame.
Yeah.
We need to be steady with the flame before it rises again. So I wanted to share that before I answer the question.
It's interesting you say that because I get that, and I am in that space of water. And I've been there for a few months, quite a while actually. We talked about my ordeal the past few years, and I've been in my flow of healing, right? I've been in my retreat, and I feel like I still hold space for my people at Burkina Faso. I get riled up looking at that and what's happening. Southern Sudan and Nigeria and Ghana right now. Many of the people who have returned, and you're getting all these different mixed reviews. And as Black people across the world, we're looking for what is our next step, or what is our next move? What is it that we should be focused on? And as Haitians, we come from Haitian stock, even though we're global citizens. We always say that. But as Haitians, we also feel for our people in Haiti right now. And I'm wondering, and I'll let you answer the question and you'll probably get to that. Where do you see the people of Haiti in that scenario? Are they also in a place of fire? Or do you think that Haitians, maybe even in the diaspora, are also in a state of flow of water?
I think we have both happening, and there may be different types of fire. The fire may be different, and I think we may also have maybe contaminated, stagnant water happening. So I'm going to answer the first question, and I think some of the answers will come through as I answer the first one. So
Hold on, I'm so sorry. Hold on. Yeah, just to remind the audience what that question was, because we can talk in circles and people miss the question. The question was, when you hear those words, which is sacred rage, sacred rebellion, what does that awaken in you as a healer and as someone who sits with others in their pain?
Thank you. So when I hear those words, when I hear sacred rage, I feel something rise in me that is fierce and clear. And it feels truthful. It feels like fire that has direction. It's not wild for the sake of being wild. It's the kind of fire that knows exactly where it's going. And some of the fire, or maybe most of the fire that we're seeing in Haiti, in the capital area, is more of that chaotic fire. And we'll get into that when we get into primal rage versus sacred rage. So as a Haitian woman, it brings me both pride and pain, because Haiti represents one of the most profound embodiments of sacred rage. And it's sacred rage unlike anything the world has ever seen. So our ancestors didn't just rise, they transformed and they transmuted the rage into liberation. And it was liberation with a capital L, liberation for all people.
Liberation, all caps, period.
All caps, exactly, period.
And yeah, go ahead. I'm so sorry, because the older I got with the Haitian Revolution story, I realized how we are indeed the embodiment of sacred rage and keepers of very deeply rooted ancestral knowledge. And I am fully aware that Haitian people, and not just us, but we were the group that made it to the finish line of becoming the first free Black republic in the world, in the Western Hemisphere, and only the second in the Western Hemisphere. But I digress. When I think of that, and I also think of who we are as ancestral Levites, and it's in our DNA, it's in our lineage, and we can go much deeper than that. It should not be an offense to anyone, but a source of empowerment to know where you come from.
Yes, it's very important to know our history, to know our founding fathers, because I got to really experience the energy of Kapwala more when my Blackness was questioned by a fellow Black woman from Jamaica in a trauma healing space of mostly whites, and she couldn't think of anyone to attack, that she had to attack me and tell me that I embody whiteness.
What?
And at that moment, I felt Dessalines in me. I felt Toussaint Louverture in me. Then I felt this energy that was so strong in me, because she was saying that she doesn't feel safe in these white spaces. How come I feel safe? Me sitting and not being activated in a predominantly white space,
Or you weren't triggered.
to her meant that I embodied whiteness.
So what happened after you punched her in the mouth?
I didn't. Because that level of liberation, that sacred rage, is love. It's the fiercest form of love.
Yeah.
And I felt the love to reassure her, to say, if something truly racist happens to you in this space, you best believe I have your back.
Yes.
And I felt that in me, and it felt ancestral, it felt collective, it was so huge. And it was our last day, we were leaving.
Yeah.
It was the first of many retreats.
Yeah.
And I got in the bus, and I was like, what was that?
Yeah. You know, that
And
I'm
then
so
I
happy.
realized, oh, it's the energy of...
No, I'm sorry to cut you out. I'm just so happy that you were able to give her grace, because that is also just evidence of the work that they've done to separate us as people. And for example, genetically speaking, Jamaicans are still the closest relatives Haitians have in the Caribbean. And so
in the group, amongst the black,
amongst the blacks,
I was the one that looked more like her.
Yeah.
We were the two darkest.
That's what I'm saying. It's by design that the powers that be have done such great work in keeping black folks separated, to the level where even now you have folks, even conscious, quote unquote, woke folks, are claiming a new title for Black Americans as foundational Black Americans, which is that is a red herring if I've ever heard one. It's such a fallacy. Foundational Black Americans? You mean Haitians? You mean Jamaicans? You mean, you know what I mean? What do you mean, foundational Black American? As if it's to continue this stratification or hierarchy amongst Black people. If it's not colorism, it's class. If it's not class, it's education or academics, elitism. There's always something that is being perpetuated to divide us. Whereas if we collected that rage, we could do so much. So how have you seen rage manifest in the body and spirit of your clients? Let's start with this woman. What happens when it goes unacknowledged?
I can't speak specifically of her because she's not my client. However, I can speak in general, and even for myself, that when rage is unacknowledged, that it starts affecting our tissues. It starts causing first malaise. Maybe we're just tired, or we're not sleeping, and we're restless, we're anxious. Typically before we have changes in blood work, changes that would give us an actual diagnosis, the body's giving us all sorts of clues that we might ignore. And when we finally have those diagnoses, they might look for women like gynecological conditions. There's an African proverb that says, when we don't cry tears, we cry blood. And this is in reference to the connection between the womb and the heart. When we experience so much that the womb could be the space that we store the things that are too much. Typically, we'll process things in the mind. So if the mind is overwhelmed, if the heart is dealing with so much, the womb will quietly store these things. And then for men, prostate issues. And we also have dysregulation of the nervous system that stems from the various trauma responses.
Yeah.
And so when we are faced with trauma, we might go into fight or flight or freeze or fawn.
Yeah.
And freezing and fawning can sometimes look like the person is calm and maybe too calm. And so if that woman was trauma informed, she might, so that wasn't the case for me. When I sat and I felt comfortable and I was not activated, she was activated in the presence of whiteness. But maybe that could have been my freeze trauma response. Sometimes if we're afraid, we're frozen, we seem calm. But when we go into that functional freeze state, that's actually the most escalated trauma response. And clinically, that might look like someone who seems calm, but they have very elevated high blood pressure. And this is what makes high blood pressure a silent killer, because you might not have any symptom, but the body is dealing with so much pressure. Depending on what is going on with us, what are some of our areas of weaknesses, when we're faced with shock, with trauma, the body might manifest different conditions. Two people facing the same thing might end up with two very different conditions, but the sources are the same. The cause is the same.
And I was a kid when I received that download. My dad was always stressed out. Father, 5 children, and my mom and dad worked very hard. But my dad always seemed to be so run down with pressure. And I would always try to alleviate that pressure by not bugging him or talking too much. All the things to just help him have a better day, because he was always scowling. And even as a child, when I learned that my dad suffered from high blood pressure, I received a download that, oh, it's because he's always stressed out. And you can speak more to that and confirm for me, because I've always felt like when I hear about women having some type of ovarian or uterine or breast cancer in particular, I always felt that it was something to do with trauma or holding on to pain that we don't know how to expel. Black women have, we especially in our communities, we've learned to just keep going, suck it up, and not complain. And we'll get more into the angry Black woman myth. But I just feel like it's not a coincidence. And I know a lot of folks, as of late, have been confirming this for me. But as someone who studies this and practices this, how do you feel about, or am I correct in that assessment that the disease that we feel, the way our bodies begin to break down, is directly affected by the traumas that we've held on to and the stress we continue to carry?
I would say yes, and it's not simply individual stress. Sometimes when we hear that, we might speak to someone as if there's something that they can do to address that on an individual level. But some of the diseases are collective diseases because we live in a collective trauma field.
Right.
So when we begin to understand that this is beyond that one trauma of yours, this is beyond that one behavior, that this is systemic. And then we can start having compassion for ourselves, that, oh my God, we're dealing with things that are bigger than us. And we also inherited a lot of wisdom, a lot of inner resources that can help us to cope, so we can come together and heal as a community. Before I got into trauma healing in the way that I got into it, I was working with the Haitian community. And at first, I started working as an acupuncturist, and I was seeing everyone within the South Florida community. And I always had this dream of working specifically with the Haitian community. And I didn't say it out loud, but it was coming from this thought that I am going to save my people. And I began speaking on the radio. I had so many radio shows, people would call, and though I couldn't do my work in the way that I wanted to do the work. So in Chinese medicine, we focus a lot on treating the root cause of the conditions, treating the underlying emotional cause. And with the Haitian collective, we were used to having more acute medical conditions in Haiti, more of the tropical diseases. Maybe someone may have typhoid or malaria or chikungunya. So these things come with very strong symptoms. So when someone would say they're sick, they would know they're sick. So now, having to educate people and understanding that these chronic conditions, they're silent. You could go years and years and years and years without symptoms, but this condition can lead to blindness, can lead to the kidneys no longer functioning and you needing to go into dialysis. So for a lot of the patients, they were not making that connection. So I was doing a lot of efforting, of educating and talking, and from this kind of, you can do it, take action like a cheerleader.
Right. And they just weren't there yet. They weren't ready for that.
They not only were they not there, but they were dealing with heavy things.
Or more acute situations, or more acute issues.
They had acute issues, but the burden of carrying certain trauma can actually make you feel heavy and sluggish, and it may be difficult to take action if you're in a state of functional freeze. And so once I began to understand that what I was seeing was a result of trauma, I started asking the patients questions about trauma. I started explaining to them about the nervous system, what trauma is, and I would ask them what was happening in your life at the time of the diagnosis. During that time, I was treating mostly diabetes. So they would say something like, I found out my husband was cheating on me. It's been 10 years and I still never told him. My mom died. My sister died. I was going through a divorce. I lost my job. So there was always an acute trauma that they could relate to. And so for the patients who were getting better, they might get better for 3 months or 6 months or a year, but they weren't able to maintain it. And so I began to understand there was something else at play. And so during that time, I was still saying the Haitian community has trauma, still removing myself from it. And I'm carrying so much and I'm trying to fix it and rescue. In the meanwhile, I began to develop some of the conditions that I came to rescue. I began gaining weight, gaining more weight, developing hypertension. And I remember as a child, my mom had me when she was 42, so in her early to mid 40s, I remember if you wake her up from sleep, she would wake up in a state of fight or flight. She was a light sleeper. So at that time, at 38, I started having some of the same reaction. It's like, whoa, okay, this must be ancestral. What is living in this body?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I experienced the loss of my cousin, who was like a mother to me, that I became aware of all of my trauma all at once. And I realized, oh, it's not that the Haitian community has trauma. I have trauma.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I was approaching it from
From
like
an
an
outsider?
intellectual thing.
Yeah.
Yes, from an outsider.
Yeah.
So by the time I joined the program, I was bleeding and I needed help to heal my own trauma.
Oh.
But what I also know, what I remember from that time too, is that I was bleeding, but no one from my community noticed. So everyone was needing more from me and more.
Right. So that's
So
where we
the
go into
trauma.
sacred care. And so what you're describing to me, and I wanted to go back to allow you to expound upon what or how does that correlate to collective trauma? Or
So
is it
what I learned,
epigenetics? Yeah, or is it
yeah. So
epigenetics?
what I learned with my own stuff when I joined the program, which the emphasis was on individual, ancestral, and collective trauma. It's a very 2 years intense program, and what I learned is that the collective is vastly more powerful than the individual. So I took on collective work without having a collective container to
Well,
support me. So I didn't have collective care. And that was what I was feeling is no one notices. Even after the program, one of my friends from the Haitian community said to me, "But you could have taught this program." I was like, easily. But I was bleeding. I needed care. I needed healing. It's not about teaching the program, it's about healing. And so it's so important that we have the proper collective vessels that the people that are working, and that's really the message I have tonight on the sacred rage. Before we get to the sacred rage, it's important that we heal the primal rage, which is connected to our childhood developmental woundings and trauma.
oh yeah, you are speaking my language.
It's,
Once I'm sorry
yes,
to cut you off, I just want to take one step back. Dr. V, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about this program. Is it a secret? And tell me just high level overview. Tell me more about this program.
okay, so it's not a secret, and I would not recommend it. And the reason I
Oh
would
my
not
God.
recommend it,
Oh my God. That was
the reason
unexpected.
I
I'm
would not,
sorry.
I know. The reason I would not recommend it is that it truly was a predominantly white program, and we were we the minorities of the program. We are the global majority.
Yes, we are.
Us blacks and browns
Yeah.
and the rest. So the global majority was the minority in the program.
Yeah.
And because each one of us came, we were singular. So I was the one Haitian. There would be one Nigerian, one Kenyan, one person from
Jamaica.
Rwanda. And so those were the three from Africa. One African American, one Puerto Rican. So because we were one of each, by the time we got there, we were carrying our entire collective. And it was heavy. And it took a toll on our body, only to wait retreat after retreat to be told that this is too heavy for this majority white groups. They're not ready to face this yet. They can't hold it. It might be too much. And so we were in a field, we were in a collective, but we were carrying
Yeah.
the load.
See,
Took a toll.
yeah, yep. And I apologize. This is precisely why I've shied away from all these offerings of retreat here in Costa Rica, and you have all these shamans and gurus. And I'm like, I I need to heal myself. And then if I'm going to bring that energy into a collective, I just think as black people or black women and women of color, the various shades. I mean, we always have to do that caveat. When I say black people, I mean everyone of color in the world. I think it is important to to gather that group or the subgroups that had that collective trauma or had that experience together. For example, women of the Caribbean, right? And then if I go more micro, women of Haiti. And our males too, because our men need to heal as well. And we care and love on them as well. But I think all over the world, this needs to be facilitated for us by us to be most effective. I don't know if you agree.
I would say yes and no. Yes, I agree with everything that you're saying. And also, if we are not conscious and aware, let's say the old version of me that would approach it from more of an intellectual approach or like a cheerleader, like we can do it, yay, trauma healing, take action, without having walked the path and feeling it and healing certain things. We can only take people as far as we have gone. So it really takes a group that has a certain level of consciousness, and the first level of consciousness is to be conscious that we have areas of unconsciousness, that things will come up, that we will touch edges. And that's what happened with me in the organization. And I love the organization, I love the program, I talk about it with so much love that you say, hey, can you tell us about it? And
Yeah.
because we have touched edges, and they are hopefully aware of those edges, at some point, I hope that we can heal together. And I will share with you, I'll see if I can pull it up. I wrote something when I first joined the program. So there was that the container couldn't really hold our black trauma because the main teacher uses terms like when
I'm sorry,
we
you broke.
experience a trauma.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry, V. You broke up there just a bit, and I'm going to ask you to repeat that for me.
Oh, okay, yes. So because the main teacher uses the analogy of frozenness, that when we experience a trauma, it stays frozen. And when we feel it, it melts and we integrate it. What came up for me when we first started was actually this analogy around fire. I'm gonna have to read it at the end because the app that I have it saved is downloading. It was such a transmission that came through where I had to ask, we know that this container can hold white frozen ice, but can it hold fire? And at the time that I left, no, it couldn't.
Explain. That
I
was a
would
bit.
say,
I'm so sorry, V. That was a bit figurative. Can you mind explaining that
okay.
for me, please? Yeah.
Okay, yes. And so it's using, I think it would make more sense if that's okay if I can read that passage at the end.
Sure.
Because it would make more sense. It's just downloading and it's being a little bit slow.
Okay.
But basically, a lot of what I've learned, a lot of what I'm practicing came from that program. And I have so much love for it. And I'm also aware that the type of holding that we need wasn't fully available. And so now is how do we create it? And I think we come together as a community to heal because we didn't just inherit trauma, we inherited a lot of resources. We
Yes,
know
we
how
did.
to heal for the most part. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
It's a blessing and a curse. But what I'm trying to understand here is okay, so if you feel like this program fell short of giving you all that you needed, but it did set you up to be on a path to healing, you did have some breakthroughs. Am I correct?
Oh, yes, a lot of breakthroughs.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, based on what the limitations were for me, confirms why I say I think it's important for black women to heal black women, at least at first. I'm not saying that because as the original people on this earth, we have this natural inclination to embrace everyone. And so that's why I don't allow my
Right.
I
Yes.
I okay, one second. I don't allow myself to feel guilty to say, you know what, I'm going to focus on black women because we're the ones hurting right now. Or our sisters need us and they need that support. And that's who I want to focus on. I don't want to feel, because obviously I have felt like, oh man, I don't want anyone else to be offended by that. We're probably the only people who think that way. We're very inclusive. We always include everyone in everyone's invited to the barbecue. And that's how we got here in the first place. Welcoming everyone instead of focusing on home and taking care of home. And what I'm saying now is going back to what you said. The writing is on the wall based on what happened this past November. We're seeing what's happening in the world, at least in our country. And I think it's time for us to collectively heal. And when I talk about collective healing, it can't be, it's not, they're not like us. Kendrick said, I cannot focus too much. I know we have allies and I appreciate you. Keep being an ally. Keep being an ally. I appreciate you because there was a time where you were silent. And there are many people out there who they're not necessarily bad people, but they're not necessarily allies as well. Because at the end of the day, people just want to relax. They don't want to have to think about all the things that people go through. But I was also thinking, and I'm also, what I'm finding that I'm thinking about more often than not is recognizing the sheer stress that we as black women and black men as well, but I'm focused on black women, that black women, and when I say black women, know that I'm talking about all women of color, we carry. And it's to varying degrees based on your geographic location and your background and what your day to day looks like. But we carry a lot. And it is, for me, I am on, and that's the point of this podcast as well, to focus on us and you and do the work, talk about these things. I don't, please share with me how you're feeling about that.
Oh, yes, I feel that it's really important that we come together and that we heal one another. And this is also why we're having this very important conversation. And part of my no is probably in response to having met someone like the woman I described earlier. When we first came together, she introduced herself as this healer, this initiated priestess, this woman who speaks for all of black people. Yet her very first act was attacking probably the blackest person in the room.
Yeah.
And saying, you're not white. You embody whiteness. And the embodiment of whiteness is actually carrying myself in a way where I hold my head high and my crown is not tilted because I inherited the sense of dignity from Dessalines,
Right.
from Kabbalah. But she is so far disconnected from what black greatness looks like. And she has, in a way, used the black victimization as transaction within these white spaces that she mistaken black dignity and black excellence for whiteness because she doesn't associate anything great with whiteness. And
You
so,
mean
for me,
blackness?
someone like that cannot be, yes, with blackness. So for me, someone like that cannot be my healer because she was wounded
Yeah, we know
to me.
not everyone is going to be a person, and no, and we're not monolith. We're not a monolith. We know that there are people in different stages of their journey. We get that. So I'm proud of you for the way you handled it, and I also, as just a general practice that I do, First, I don't allow anyone to create my story for me, but I do listen when someone talks to me or see me in a particular light. I will be that person to stay up all night thinking about my behavior and what I did say, do, or project that gave that evaluation or gave that conclusion. Not to accuse you of that. And I hear you and I accept that. And I celebrate you for that, for embodying Dessalines and Louverture everywhere you go and not shying away from being Dr. V. You are V. And celebrate you. However, because we don't have her side and I don't even know who you're talking about, I'm trying to play devil's advocate and try to understand why she would see you that way, other than being self loathing. Because if she's a healer, we're hoping she has a high degree of self awareness and consciousness to celebrate her blackness. And she's not, and that's not an uncommon story, V. In spaces and or in mixed spaces, being ourselves somehow we run the risk of being accused of assimilating or performing for that hegemonic group. We're accused of putting on for them. We're accused of wanting their approval. And so I consciously, because subconsciously we do have that little, every black person has a little coon in them. And I check my coonery as soon as I wake up in the morning. I do. And I'm not accusing you of that. I know I can be funny. But because I've been in so many mixed spaces, I consciously think, am I respecting myself and my ancestors and my parents? Am I honoring who I am as the original, as the black woman, the magical one? You know what I mean? And so I wonder what behaviors. Maybe you were too nice to the white people. Why she treat you like that?
I would say, first, one of the things she said to me was, I'm not used to feeling less powerful than others. There's something about you that I don't get. But I would say each of our Black experience is unique, and a lot of our early developmental experiences will dictate how we show up in spaces. And because my 0 to 7 was in an entirely Black Haiti, so I have, just in general, more than the average person, I have a sense of safety with everyone, or
Within yourself too.
when I enter a room, I typically do not enter a room from a space of hypervigilance, because I didn't have to be hypervigilant from 0 to 7. And so there's something called basic trust that a lot of human beings sometimes, that, like when we talk about the core wounds, so we can have various core wounds. So one of them could be the core wound of trust. So I don't have that wound because my mom used to send me to the countryside of Haiti, where everyone was polite, everyone was kind, where it was normal not to lock your doors.
Yes.
And so my baseline to everyone, including whites, is always going to be from a space of kindness and politeness, especially if we all come together to heal our trauma on our first retreat. It doesn't mean that I don't have that sacred fire.
Yeah. That's why I'm sorry, V. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Those of us, and you'll find this type of consciousness, particularly from people from the Caribbean or Africans from the continent, And Haitians, we didn't have that. We came here empowered, even with nothing but resilience, no money, no nothing. We didn't come to the United States like the Cubans. We didn't have a whole lot of money, but we knew who we were, and we weren't in a space of hypervigilance when we went into white spaces. And I think me checking my coonery now is a response to the criticism that you experienced, right? It's a reverse. So whereas our quote unquote foundational Black Americans probably led this way, right, in being hypervigilant, we've learned they're teaching us to be hypervigilant. And if we watch the news, or if we follow a lot of Black podcasts or woke podcasts or progressive podcasts, it's easy to fall into that victimhood, or that space where nothing's ever fair and goes our way. Not to say that those things are not happening. They're very real, and the threat to our daily survival continues to be an imminent threat. However, we remain resilient and steadfast in knowing that we should have somewhere to go back to. And that's a whole other podcast if we talk about Haiti. I think that's what it is. Like, people have always been people, and we're not above or below anyone. And that's the way we grew up. That's what I said, all that to say that.
Yes, and I would say the part of me that is my default to lead with an open heart is also the same part of me that was able to respond to her from that space of reassurance.
Absolutely.
Should something truly racist happen to you, I have your back. So sometimes we may mistake water or softness for weakness. So basically, she probably didn't feel safe because I was presenting as water. But then I got to share with her, hey, there's fire here too.
No, but you also said that, no, for me, I'm thinking of it as something else. Yeah, she could have very well been triggered by the amount of whiteness and feeling maybe that she's not really connecting, or maybe their ways of being fell out of line with who she is. So she was probably feeling like an outlier, and probably felt that she didn't have an ally in you. That, for me, that is not even the biggest issue. It's what you said before that. And that is, she said, I'm not used to being in spaces where I'm not the most powerful one. So for me, that was personal. And that is her own spirit and her own energetic sphere, and her fear of not having enough control or power over her environment at that time. And you know what? For that, my love, you make no apologies for, because you will take up space wherever you go. And white, black, yellow, whatever color you want to call yourself, there will always be that. And if you're not in a space to celebrate others and their prowess or their power, then that is something personal. You understand what I'm saying,
Yes.
V?
Yes, and I'll share that she did touch me in a space of wounding, because although I don't have that core wound of trust, but I do have the core wound of belonging.
Right.
And it is something that I experienced as an immigrant coming to this country.
That's what we suffered from. Yes. We wanted to belong, but belong to to the new Black community. I've always wanted to belong. That's why I went to an HBCU, because I just did not get it. I didn't understand how I'm an outlier, or I'm not accepted fully because I'm not Black enough, but I'm darker than most of you. I didn't get it as a child.
So that experience kept me busy throughout the 2 years.
Oh, wow.
That wounding experience of coming to the U.S. at the age of 12, going to a predominantly black school in Miami, experiencing bullying, having had the experience of the word Haitian being a curse word.
What school did you go to? I'm sorry, what school did you go to? When you came to Miami, what school did you go to? Because we're both from Miami.
Yeah, so for the first few months, I went to Madison Middle School.
Okay.
And
yeah, my brother went there.
The year prior, there was an actual shooting in the school, and this is the early 90s, and a child died. And I left an environment in Haiti where I attended an all-girl Catholic school. We had mass on Sundays, like super safe school, to now being in a different environment and being with people who look like me, but who were using the word Haitian as a curse word.
Oh, I heard worse than that. I heard worse than that. Yeah, we heard worse than that. I think I'm a little older than you. I went to Buena Vista Elementary. I went to Miramar Elementary. And I grew up in Wynwood, the now gentrified art spot. But when I was growing up there, we had our Haitians, we had our Jamaicans, we had our Bahamians, but we also overwhelmingly had a lot of Puerto Ricans, Cubans, not so much, but we did have our Cubans, but it was mostly Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. That was our area. And of course, you also had your African American, your Black American. And other islanders, like we had some Trinidadians, a lot of Trinidadians were there, neighbors. And I think we grew up with one of the last Jewish couples on our block. When we moved to that neighborhood, we had all of two families. And as white families were moving out of those neighborhoods, as more and more people of color, Black people, people of the Caribbean, the Latin American community were moving in. And so early 80s, I'm daughter of an immigrant, but I was born in the States. That didn't save me from anything. We were fighting every single day. The bullying was ridiculous, and here are the names we were called. Haitian boat people. We were called HBO for Haitian body odor.
Yes.
And we were stank, we were this, we were that. And it was so far, I don't know where they got those narratives from, because we had several kids who were just poor and came to school stank. But I'll tell you what, we were not one of them. I was not one of them. And my mom, some days I'd be in school with church clothes, always with the stockings, the Buster Browns, or the Mary Janes, the doily socks. It was always, and my mom always did my hair. I had to be the cutest. And I experienced feeling ostracized as a Haitian and began fighting back. And that's where that sacred rage, oh my dear. There were times that I've had fights and I did not remember anything. They'd push me to the point where even then I would explain it to my dad as I tell Dad, I don't know what happened. Something just came over me and I beat them up and I kept beating people up. And my parents would always come and defend me. Like, my daughter I don't fight, I don't start fights, but if you're messing with me or anyone who was Haitian, I was jumping in. And I got receipts. I got people who remember it. They called me Mike Tyson. When I tell you, I used to kick their butt. And so I was never, and we know that they're children, and I don't blame them. I really don't. We had kids our age who were ashamed to say they were Haitian for that purpose. They were ashamed, and they were afraid. Either they're ashamed or afraid, but I was neither. It's not that I wasn't afraid. I was just brave enough to stand up for myself and others. So when another Haitian kid would be abused or be bullied, I'd definitely jump in.
So similarly, I experienced being jumped, getting into fights, either seeing black or seeing red, not remembering what happened, winning the fight, even breaking the arm of this boy who jumped me. So it gave me a reputation of I'm not to be messed with. I think that's
Yes.
the Haitian collective fire. But it also, to this day, this is why I said it kept me busy in a way that I'm learning to trust the fire,
Yeah.
to trust my fire, because
Someone told us
what
to
does
be
that mean that I
ladylike.
could break?
Yeah, someone told us to
Yeah,
not lose our temper and to hold ourselves together and hold it in. What the hell? No, sometimes we gotta break some shit. I'm sorry.
and so for me, it was like, what does that mean that I don't remember? And so I began to understand. I think by the time we're done, people are going to want to join the program. One of the things I learned is that every single one of us have in our nervous system encoding for individual, ancestral, and collective trauma. And so we have these access points within us. So I now can attune to myself when I'm upset. I know what individual me is like.
Yeah.
Individual me, when I'm upset, is going to manifest as some version of water, calm, clear, collected, set boundaries. When I'm ancestrally or collectively activated, it's more warrior, fire. And so I began to understand my inner architecture as a Haitian through that program.
That
And
is
so we can
it.
go
Stop. You're
anywhere,
no,
you
I
know,
can't let
if we're
you
planted in soil.
you cannot gloss over this that quickly. That was very profound what you said. That was very
Yes.
profound. You said that usually, if you're upset and you know it's V's upset, you can take a logical approach to it and be water, sit with it, think about it, and act accordingly. But
Sleep on it.
yeah, even sleep on it, let it go. But
Yes.
but you say, when it's more rooted, when it's coming from an ancestral place, maybe something familiar, something is triggered, or the level of trauma is so egregious that they need to step in, then then it comes full out. That's interesting.
And so then, yes, so now I can tell. So let's say, for example, if if I have a dynamic with someone where I am ancestrally or collectively triggered, maybe that's not the right space for me at the moment. So, for example, I did end up closing my practice, go through the program, and when I was ready to re-engage with work, I was really happy to work in a clinic, in a setting, in a group setting. I always dreamt of working with groups when
I
we
loved
used
your
to work
clinic, by the
alone.
way. I loved your clinic, by the way. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, you helped me quit smoking with acupuncture.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna need a testimony. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I quit for 4 years. And then
Wow.
when my dad died, I couldn't cope again and I picked it up again. But I quit again. I quit again. But what I'm saying is,
Oh, congratulations.
yeah,
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
you were instrumental in that. And I really thank you. I remember spending a full day in the spa day, and it was just an amazing day of healing, of
Oh,
journaling, and just acupuncture, everything, sound bowl, everything. And it was just amazing. It was, I loved coming to you, but the one spa day that we did, what was it, a healing day, a massage day? It was just a spa day
I think it was the mini healing retreat.
of everything. And then but I
Mhm.
did continue to come and I was healed, and I don't know if I
Wow.
ever got to tell you that. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think I was remembering the version of me before that program.
Yeah, I loved your
And
clinic. It was just a beautiful space, great energy. Like as soon as I stepped in
thank
there,
you.
I'd be so excited to come see you for my sessions.
Oh, thank
And
you.
yeah, and imagine, I still lived in Miami. Your practice was in North Lauderdale. I was like, man. But I loved coming because as soon as I step into your clinic, it was just such a serene space.
Oh, thank you. That
such,
means a lot to
yes,
me.
such good energy. I could just really relax. Yeah, it was just, yeah. I don't know if I did. I think I tell you because I gush over everyone. I
Yes.
give everyone their flowers.
Thank you. It's just some things I don't remember. So
Of course,
thank
you're
you.
not going to remember the
Thank
good
you.
stuff. So,
I know because I was just before this program,
yeah,
I
no.
must have been
You need to
annoying
know
so
how
many people
great
to say
you
this or
are.
that. Thank you.
You need to know how great you are. You need to know how many lives you've impacted and how instrumental you've been in so many people's healing. I want to just segue into this topic. I know you're going to circle back to what you've been saying, but I want to get into the myth of the angry black woman.
Landed there.
We did land there, but it's been weaponized against us. And yet our rage has always been rooted in survival, in love, and in clarity. V, do you see this myth affecting black women's health, physically, emotionally, energetically? How are we dealing with it?
Absolutely, and it's not because we're angry, it's because we're suppressing our anger. So it's important that we express the anger, that we can name it, that we can be with it, that we can sit with it, that we can find proper support for it.
Yeah.
And really, anger typically stems from a boundary violation. When our no is not respected,
Yes.
it's normal to have an angry reaction, to say no, pushing away, to set a boundary. That's the right that every animal has.
Well,
If you
yeah.
cross boundary, if you cross the boundary.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately for black women, it's not always safe to express that. If we express it, we might be in dynamics of gaslighting, where someone does something.
Microaggressions.
Yes, the microaggression. And that's actually what I was going to share when I went to work in this clinic. And I was like so happy that we would work as a team, as a group, and we would share our experiences. And there was one particular coworker who was extremely microaggressive, extremely passive aggressive. And I could feel that some of the things
were
that
directed
she was doing
towards
was
you.
Activating my ancestral and collective nervous
Oh, don't tell me
system.
she went. Did she get you there? Did she get you there?
A little bit.
I've been called aggressive. Oh man, I've been called aggressive or hostile, and I'm like, I'm just expressing myself. Women continue.
I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah.
I encourage us to embody the fierceness, because a lot of it is gaslighting.
Yeah.
I have a friend of mine who unfortunately was in an abusive relationship, and her husband used to tell her all the time, you're crazy, and then she started internalizing it, and she'll call me and he says I'm crazy, and I'm like, he doesn't really think you're crazy. Men are actually afraid of crazy women. He would never tell me I'm crazy, because I would be like,
exactly,
because it's not a trigger. Yeah, and because
I guess you love crazy women. Because we all know you don't want to see crazy.
Yes, because she wanted to prove she's not crazy. That's why it worked.
Yeah.
And so, if anything, we're not allowing ourselves to feel and to express and to be with the anger. And because the reason what she was bringing up, the reason it felt ancestral and collective, is because within her own nervous system, she also has the ancestral and collective encoding.
Of course.
So something about me showing up to work happy and embodying Black excellence was bringing up all these things. And at the time, I remember collective issues need a collective container.
Yeah.
I had not been going to church. I grew up very Catholic. In fact, as we're speaking, my mom is watching Mass. And I stopped at a church and I sat in front of the Virgin Mary. And I was like, and it wasn't just her. There was another person. It was pre-election. Sometimes I could feel what's going to happen collectively. And I was like, this is a white women issue. You represent the white women. I'm here to help me hold this issue. Because at this point, the church is a collective container. And it's a collective container that I'm used to. So I'm like, hey, Mother Mary, I'm going to pray about this. Help me resolve this. And it resolved itself beautifully. And I just ended up leaving and going to bigger and greater things. And now I could thank her. Oh, my goodness, I could thank her so much.
That's beautiful.
I could just send her like anonymous flowers at work to thank her.
Yeah.
For these embodied microaggression and racism and all those things that were coming up. But what helped me was connecting to a collective container that I'm used to.
Right.
Most of the time with my own spirituality, it's nature. So nature is my cathedral, has always been, even though I grew up Catholic.
That is very interesting, and I just learned something from you saying that. I really appreciate you sharing that anecdote with me. I'm thinking maybe it's because, first, I'm not Catholic, but I do agree with you. What another way? It's a new way and nuanced way to look at the church, because I haven't been to church in a while as well. Sometimes we feel like we've outgrown those spaces, whereas those spaces are very important. So I appreciate you sharing that. And the other thing is, I would never think of Mother Mary as the matron saint of white women.
She's been represented as a white woman. I was like, help me out.
She wasn't white.
I know.
She is depicted as white.
Yes. Interestingly, during the election, I found myself attending this church that she's the patron saint of Cuba.
Who's Santa Barbara?
No, it's Our Lady of Charity.
Okay, Our Lady of Charity is another one.
And so it's in Miami. Ermita de la Caridad is Spanish. So what kept me busy before this podcast? Some of the deeper things that I had to feel, some of the sacred rage, primal rage, grief, is connected to Black and brown relations. Because when I went to that middle school in Miami and experienced the bullying, the fighting, my parents advocated for me, thank God. Yeah. They advocated for me. They asked the school board to transfer me, and they did. They sent me to Hialeah Middle School. So I was one of just a handful of Black students.
Of course.
In this brown space.
In Latin, little Cuba space.
Yes. So first, I was safe. There was no xenophobia. No one made fun of me because I was Haitian.
Yes.
And so my nervous system remembers that in an embodied way as a safe space. What I actually witnessed, so my first true witnessing of racism in this country was my white English teacher being verbally abusive, being racist toward the Cuban students. He could not stand them. And he would throw things, he would throw desks. I was the only Black of these students.
What do you mean he threw desks?
English speakers of other languages.
What do you mean he threw desks?
He just throwing things. He would go into these racist rage fits, similar to what on TV when you see the cops being so dysregulated. Something about the Cubans will just throw him into these fits. But he loved me. And that shows sometimes how we were pitted against each other. So I was the model minority of that school because I had no choice but to speak English. There were no other Haitians in my class. The Cubans had each other. So then he was upset that they weren't learning English. But then I had to learn English, and I had to learn English really fast.
It seems like at a very young age, you got to experience both a place of oppression and a place of privilege.
Yes, I got to experience both. And I did not revel in it because I understood that it was wrong. I understood that what he was doing was wrong, and I could name it as such. So fast forward, now I'm in my 40s, and so some of these peers from middle school are in their 40s, and to see that they are aligning with the KKK, with white supremacy. I saw this. I witnessed the racism. I see how they.
I'm very shocked. Yeah, I'm very shocked at anyone in our generation who are now trying to align themselves with whiteness. And I say whiteness in quotation, air quotes, to say white supremacy. And it is unbelievable because as kids, if we saw racism, it was not racism, we saw xenophobia. We saw xenophobic ways from Black Americans, from maybe other Cubans, maybe other because every island was the best, right? From our various places of being of origination, we always felt like Haitians were the best, or Cubans thought they were the best. Cubans thought they were better than Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans thought they were better than Dominicans. Jamaicans thought they were better than Haitians, and then Haitians turned around and thought they were better than Jamaicans anyway. Even we still have the rice wars today. I'm saying that to say, I don't know, I went on a tangent. I told you I would go on a tangent from time to time, but I was saying that to say.
But basically, I witnessed true racism. Like the white on brown kind.
Yikes. That's nasty.
So then.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So then around the election, I found this church, and I would go in there, and I'm like, Mother Mary, what's going on?
And of course, you're praying to her as the representative for all whites. I have to keep that in mind. Oh my God. That is sweet. I really appreciate that from you. That is really sweet. Okay, segue, V. I want to bring it back to your softness. So in your healing journey, I'm not going to ask about the retreats anymore. Your 2-year retreat. I'm not going to talk about that. I want to talk about your own personal journey with softness and healing and sitting in your discomfort, calling yourself to feel, and you knowing, of course, that is not weakness. It's your own sacred rebellion. Yeah? So tell us more about how you guide yourself towards softness. And what does that look like as medicine, as your daily practice and ritual?
I would say that softness is the return to our original nature. It's the return to our true essence. So in my healing spaces, we sit, we breathe, and we feel. And we don't force. We don't rush. So we let the body speak. And I named my practice Tending to the Inner Garden. And it's because if we look at if we approach our inner architecture as a garden, we would have more self-compassion, because we don't judge a garden. If a garden needs to be watered because there's a place of dryness, we water it. If something needs to be pruned, we prune it. If we need to pull some weeds, we pull the weeds.
Yeah.
And if we wake up one day and the flowers are blossoming, we smell the roses, we enjoy the flowers.
Yeah.
If there
So
are
you're
fruits,
telling
and if
me,
there's a harvest.
yes, you're telling me to look at my whole body and my whole inner being as a garden, not just my noni. Is that right?
Yes. Thank you for
Yeah, because
sharing
no,
that.
because for a lot of us women, and I'm probably just putting my own self out there. Yeah, I tend to my garden thinking of my vagina.
So this is for both men and women.
I'm joking.
Just yes,
I
no,
couldn't
we're
hold
just
it.
connecting to the body and as a garden. And so when we go through the sessions, when I work with a group or with myself,
Yeah.
the analogies are endless.
Yeah.
Last May we did an entire month of tending to the roots because May is Haitian Heritage Month.
Yes. As well as
We were
Asian and
at the
Pacific
roots.
Islander Heritage Month as well.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, I noticed that if you're on the East Coast, it's Haitian Heritage Month. If you're on the West Coast, it's Asian and Pacific Islanders Heritage Month. Yeah. So
Oh,
I honor
okay.
them as well. Yeah.
Yes, and so at the level of the roots, at the level of our lineage, if we are able, so the goal is to embody ourselves. With trauma, we tend to go up and out of the body. And so with trauma healing, the invitation is to return to the body.
Yes.
And to be with what is ready to be felt, to be witnessed, and to be integrated. And it's to be witnessed by you. Certain wounds want to be witnessed by others. And this is why we come together in groups to heal. So
you answered my question.
Yes, when we come together in groups, we can witness each other's pain. And when that pain is properly witnessed and felt, and witness and compassion, we can integrate. And integration is key because each time we are traumatized, parts of us get frozen at that age. And so with integration, when we finally feel the original pain, we integrate that young self. That young part now catches up to our current age. So trauma healing is essentially a maturation process. So all of these spaces of wounding are younger than we are.
Yes.
And if we understand that we are dealing with young aspects of ourselves or young aspects of the others, then we can have compassion.
Yes.
And sometimes the more powerful or maybe explosive expression of age might be the primal rage of a very young part of ourselves. And so I wanted to talk a bit about primal rage so that we can understand what it is, how it's formed.
Yes.
So that we can begin to heal it.
Yes,
so that we don't go out there and do activism work.
Yes.
Until we are healed.
Okay, definitely want to get into primal rage. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I want to understand something because as you were speaking, you talked of compassion. And so for me, when I think of compassion, I'm thinking of softness. Are you attributing compassion to softness?
Most of the time, yes. However, there is such a thing as fierce compassion.
Yes, there is.
So, for example,
no, I think I was thinking within the context of what you answered. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'll give an example so that we understand, like within the context of healing. Suppose you are grieving and someone gives you soft compassion. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. And they hug you and they give you love. That's a very soft compassion. Suppose your shoulder is dislocated and you go to the ER and the doctor just says, I'm so sorry. Oh my goodness. Oh, come here. Let me give you a hug. That's not the compassionate thing to do. The compassionate thing to do is to relocate the shoulder. It might hurt you more. You might feel more pain at that moment than you're currently feeling. but then that's what's needed to heal. So if the physician leaves you with the dislocated shoulder and keeps giving you love and compassion and coddling you, that's not compassion. So it's what is appropriate at the moment. So sometimes a thing could feel more painful than the original pain, but it is a compassionate thing to do.
Right. I guess when I think of physicians, I don't think of compassion. I don't expect compassion. I expect empathy, but I expect know how, right? And yeah, fierce compassion is in solving problems, right? It's not rooted in emotion, it's rooted in action, doing something to remedy a situation or, in this case, a person.
We do have compassionate physicians, and my standard now, my standard of care when I'm looking for someone to work with is someone who embodies competence and compassion, because sometimes the work can cause someone to be so armored that they're disconnected from compassion, and the patient can feel that. We can't have both. There's no reason to be competent without the compassion if we can embody both. So for me, the invitation to healthcare practitioners is to have both. And this comes from my own experience of having recently, 2 years ago, having experienced being misdiagnosed, giving the wrong medication because I had a medical emergency, and it cascaded into an array of problems that required so much advocacy. And I notice with my follow-up care, when I have to take my mom to the doctor, my mom needed a procedure, like, I don't think healthcare needs so much advocacy. The level of advocacy that's required so that people are not harmed when we take the vow to do no harm, it's unreal.
I
And so
get it.
this is a whole different segue, but
Yeah,
I'm
that's a
passionate
yeah.
about that.
I'm going to, and that's a whole other podcast because it speaks to why an astronomical amount of women, black women, we're the highest in infant child mortality. So that's a whole other podcast, and when we're ready to talk about that, we will get there. But V, I wanna seg into, and only if you have anything else to add, I'll you can do that. But I definitely want to segue into primal rage that you discussed, and I have a feeling it's going to be connected to, I don't know, ancestry or epigenetics or inherent traumas in our body. Tell me about primal rage, and we can, because we're at the tail end of our conversation, and I definitely didn't want to leave that out.
Oh, thank you. It can be connected to the collective, to ancestral wounding. However, I would like to keep it at the individual level simply because those early developmental wounds that need caring are the ones that we tend to bypass. So sometimes we bypass them to go into ancestral work, to go into collective work, when really to be effective at the collective work, at the collective and ancestral level, it would behoove us to do the individual work, and those are so easily bypassed. And so first, with primal rage, they stem from core wounds. These are early wounds that may stem from unmet needs or early abuse or neglect, and they really come from the most innocent part of us, like this innocent child who for the first time will experience some type of hurt.
Yeah, wounded
When that
child.
happens, yes. So when that happens, there's a layer of shame. It's, oh my God, I love this person and I thought the best of them. They're rejecting me, or they're abandoning me, or they broke my trust, or they laughed at me.
Yeah.
So there's the shame, and then for having been betrayed in that way. There's a rage that we feel that is called primal rage. And when we feel that, there's also another layer of shame. It's like, I was told to be good. I was told to be a good boy or a good girl.
Yeah.
And so we quickly cover that primal rage with a false self. The false self will be the best student, a good doctor, a good acupuncturist, a good nurse, a good psychologist.
Yeah.
And we are healing. And when we touch on rage, that first layer, I wouldn't call it sacred rage. It's usually something really young.
It's primal.
Something primal.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily where we want to take our activism.
Yeah.
Because it's young, it's not yet mature. And oftentimes, to get to that young, wounded aspect of ourselves, we have to go through the layer of the primal rage and through the layer of shame to get to this part of us that is waiting to be integrated. It could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4, and it needs to catch up to this age, to our current level of maturation. What will happen when we work with people, whether it's a pastor, whether it's a psychologist, or whoever, or it could be a friend or a sister, if they don't understand those layers, when the rage comes, they will quickly invite us to go back to the false self. The false self is acceptable, but it's not real. The authentic self is the one that's buried under the rage, under the shame, and it needs tending. So as we talk of fire and water, part of the healing is to be willing to go through the fire of your own primal rage, carrying a bucket of water to rescue your own self.
Dang.
That's hard work.
V, I feel so judged right now. Oh my God. I feel so judged. I am only peeling the layers, and this is tedious because I celebrate each milestone, let me tell you, because I've been through a lot. And I don't sit or live in victimhood, and that's the shameful part, right? We want to get over things very quickly, but I've learned to be more kind to myself, and peeling those layers or sitting with it and understanding it in order to integrate it and mature with it. And there have been several of those periods and points of trauma in my life, and I can pinpoint to each of them and how it's affected. And so it's a lot of work. I feel so judged. I feel like, oh my God, are we ever going to heal? I need a retreat every quarter.
I hope you can feel so loved by what I'm saying.
I do love what you're saying. I do. I love what you're saying.
Something that yes, no, I'm saying I hope you can feel so loved by it as well. Because you're not alone.
Yeah.
This is all of our story.
Yeah.
Everyone loves a good guru.
Yeah.
And once you actually understand those layers, you might actually start being able to first within yourself to discern your self.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Self,
even and no,
shameful self,
I'll tell you,
self.
And I'll tell you where I've gotten to the point where when something is triggering or I impulsively do something, right? I can pinpoint to what age, what level of development that came from. Because it's a marker. So we have these trauma markers, right? But when you begin to heal and you're able to pinpoint exactly to which trauma you're responding right now, I think that's what I'm saying. I'm like, you inspire me to go deeper and continue the healing work, the shadow work, and dig into that ancestral wisdom. Yes?
Yes. Oh, so then my job here is that, because that's really what I wanted to do with that information. Because it's when we rescue that original self, that authentic self, when we integrate that authentic self, that's the one that's carrying the torch of our sacred rage.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that carries the light of our mission. That's when we are more equipped and more mature to go into the healing work. And I'll use myself as an example, because where I was recently, so I shared with you how when around the election, it's like I couldn't understand what is going on with my Cuban brothers and sisters who that I went to school with them. I saw the abuse. I saw it. It's almost like I was on the plantation with you. I saw how you were being abused, and now you want to emulate the slave master. And so I had not gone close to that wound, that the rage, the hurt, or any of it until the day before they nominated the Pope. I read a comment that someone from, I even forgot, Nicaragua said about Haiti and the Latin. Usually I love reading comments, but I don't go back and forth with people. I find myself going back and forth, speaking for and representing all of Haiti. Then I went back and deleted it.
You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna stop deleting my comments. I do that notoriously. I'll put a knee jerk reaction to a knee jerk reaction for me when something is really egregious or really saying something stupid or whatever. I'll put a comment down and then I'll reflect and say, "Ooh, that's a bit too strong," and I go and I delete it. I will not do that again. I'm just going to live boldly. I'm not doing that again. But
I'll tell you why I did it.
Yeah.
Real quick. It was because I could identify this was collective, and it was her collective and my collective. The very next day, with the new Pope, with the revelation that the new Pope has Haitian ancestry.
Yeah, I'm like, are people upset that he has Haitian ancestry? Or now the Dominican Republic are going to try to claim him? Is that it? Because they got the oldest Catholic church.
So that's been going on in the comments.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's what I was feeling.
But he's black. Are you going to be okay with that part? Because he's black. That is hilarious.
So because that's what I was feeling, then I recognized what I was feeling. So now it's, let me not add
to the fire.
Let me not add to the fire. Let me go within myself and feel that pain. Now, the same program that I was in, I consciously chose to walk those 2 years with the only Dominican of that program. We walked paths of our individual, ancestral, and collective trauma. And when I tell you, I love her and she loves me. We went through something together, being from the same island, knowing the fragmentation, knowing the division.
You know what? That sounds very important and profound. I'm glad you did that.
Yes. And so, it just so happens that today, it's the first day of a collective trauma healing program that they're having. And I know when we come together in that way in that program, the collective shows up in the field. And I could already feel what's going on in the Brown collective, and Container has. So in the previous years, a lot of the things were black and white, or the Jews and the Palestinians. And it's like Latin America is ripe for their trauma.
Yeah.
And I could feel, so I'm not in there. So Haiti's not in there. And
how is Haiti not in there?
And yesterday, because I'm not in. I would have been the one representing Haiti. But collectively, it's there. But meaning, I'm not there as the Haitian.
Yeah, they like to kick us out of Latin America. They really do. But we are Latinos.
I'm saying in the retreat, I'm not participating in it.
Okay, you're not participating this time. Okay, I'm sorry.
In this retreat, in this particular program, and I can because I can feel what's right Remember, we only pick the fruits that are ripe. I could feel like, oh, this is ripe. This is coming up. And I could feel, so everything is happening within us. What is my relationship? What is Haiti's relationship with Latin America? During this election, when Haiti was used to be made an example, when they thought that it was only about Haitians, the Haitians are eating cats and dogs. How did everyone else vote? Who was okay with Haiti being thrown under the bus? So I was just not feeling those things. The anger, the primal rage, and the ancestrally. It's, oh my God, we help you guys out. And now you're aligning with the ones who enslave you, and you're
Listen, I'm
aligning
not
with the
going
colonizers. So
V, I'm not gonna hold you on that one. I'm not gonna hold you, I promise you. When the just and this is just a quick caveat on my part. When I heard Trump say they're eating cats and our dogs, and he tried to implicate us as savages who don't even know how to be in society, whereas the people of Spring Hill, the Haitians who've gone there to be, is it Spring Hill? I forget the name.
Springfield,
Spring
Ohio.
Springfield, Ohio, and they got to Ohio and they really turned that economy around. But I'm saying that to say it did not touch me, not one bit. I wasn't upset. In fact, I laughed about it. I found it funny, and I'm really grateful to be in a space where your words and your stupidity, your ignorance no longer triggers me. So that's just one of the things that I'd like to encourage folks. There are a lot of propaganda, and other than being vigilant for your physical safety, and of course other ways that sometimes we find ourselves at the shorter end of the stick, other than that, I say live your life, and those things should not have any marital weight into your life. I love comedy. I love to laugh. That shit was funny.
So I would say it was beautiful to witness that this was the collective response. What I could sense, the collective response is, oh, we're going to shine even brighter. Like, you're not getting through to us.
Yeah.
My
We saw a
response,
resurgence on social media. We saw a resurgence, not resurgence, but a surge of Haitian content creators and chefs and home cooks who decided, you know what, let me show the world our beautiful food. And I had the opportunity to talk about our beautiful food on the Global Food Network on a podcast just recently. Very proud of, and I'm very proud of how Haitians continue to trailblaze, and we also had our sister win the Guinness World Records for longest time cooking. She Haitian woman, and so we're going to show that this is the time. I think we're in a period of fire. I know you talked about water and fire and knowing when to implement what. But this is how I'm feeling, and this is the downloads I'm getting. We are definitely in a period of fire. The water that is apparent is really us being strategic as we gather in closer units. We got the message. They're not like us, and they're not like us doesn't mean white people are not like black people. It means a lot of people are not like the collectively conscious, and that has no color, okay? And so we're going to deal and come across many people. But just to round out and close what we were talking about, I really appreciate your wisdom and your experience, your intellectual, academically sound purview of the things that we discuss. I wanted to ask you something, V, and if it is too personal, you don't need to share. But as we draw to a close, a lot of people are on their own spiritual journeys, on their own healing journeys, and knowing when to navigate and how. And so people are looking for ways to get into the practice of not just self-care, but peeling back the layers to heal, right? And understanding and accepting themselves in the space of their rage, of really allowing their emotions to manifest so that they can heal themselves right then and there. I would rather curse 10 people out than get diabetes. You hear me? And so if I'm upset, I'm letting it out. But I want to come back to the question I want to ask you. And that is, what is your ancestral or cultural practice that helps you release or honor your sacred rage?
Oh, thank you. Beautiful question. And I will piggyback on what you were sharing earlier about our collective light. It got me thinking of the song by Joy Duet File, Kat Campé. And I feel like that song had a direct message from the ancestors with the line that says Pamele. And sometimes when I'm dancing to that song, I'll even translate it into English and it's don't meddle. So not to get over involved in things. And part of the self-care, and this is the part that I'm calling the water, is don't get involved. And that was me deleting the messages. Oh, I can feel the pull of the collective and I'm not meddling in that one. I can feel this is happening because we're not separate. If we attune to it, we can feel what's going on in the collective. So that's been a beautiful message, and the whole world is dancing to that song.
Oh, that song has brought a lot of people together, and I think it's just a time. It is just a time. I think the world will see Haiti. We have people like Wyclef who've paved a way. But before Wyclef, there was a musician by the name of Franz Cassius. Okay. And I'm not just saying his name because I have Cassius in my name. He might be a distant cousin or uncle. Who knows? I know his family still lives in New York. In fact, we have the Cassius, they've been in the United States for years, and where a lot of us are musicians and or comics or artists of some sort or lawyers. I had a cousin who was the mayor of Haiti. I'm just saying all that to say that our cultural practice and how we honor our sacred rage is fundamental to our well-being.
I think culturally, we have not always fully acknowledged our age. We've seen a lot of examples of some of the chaotic ways that it can come up when it's dysregulated. Usually when we've had enough is enough, it erupts. I think if we can learn to harness it, to feel it, to know that it's there.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, what I'm saying,
bypass.
yeah, but what I'm saying is the world will feel Haiti's rage. That's what I'm saying. And our rage is not violent. It's just a resurgence of consciousness I'm seeing amongst Haitians.
And no, I was not referring to that. I was
Okay.
referring to specifically what's going on in Haiti.
Yeah, it's not just Haiti, it's in the diaspora. What I'm saying is, Haitians all over, I'm seeing like there's this quiet rebellion where the Haitians are getting together to put on a concert, for example. People are creating coalitions on how to help Haiti rebuild, micro loans for those who are on the soil, all types of things. And I say that to say part of our rage is that a lot of Haitians feel like our hands are tied and we can't, and that's just one of the things. We deal with so many things. However, when I'm thinking of the collective rage, I'm thinking, and I just want to say that and let it die. Not let it die, but let it sleep for now or table it for now. I just feel like a lot of Haitians at this point, especially our generation, feel like we should be able to retire to Haiti if we wanted to. We've been sustaining this country for a long time. It's been pillaged, we've gone through natural disasters, our people are desperate, they're dying. Starvation is the norm, and our city is filthy. For example, Port-au-Prince, our capital, still not built. This is unacceptable. And I think a lot of Haitians in the diaspora, I'm just speaking to just because Haiti is on my mind. It is Haitian Heritage Month. Haiti's on our minds every single day. But just to amplify what I believe the collective consciousness is feeling right now if they're Haitian, and this is just one of the myriad of things, I'm sure, but one of it is my country needs to rebuild and it needs to get better, and I think that's on every Haitian's mind. Who cares? I have to say, who cares?
Yes, I think we're speaking to something very similar. I just didn't get there quite yet because I was speaking just within the Haitian collective that while we're dancing and showcasing our light outside of Haiti, there's so much pain, there's so much violence that's happening in the capital and the areas around it. While I love speaking of our greatness, and I always do, in order for us to heal, it's also important that we can presence some of the things that can, some of our tendencies that prevent the deep healing that we need to do. And one of it is a tendency to bypass pain, to even sometimes bypass collective grief. The very first time that I witnessed our collective grief was after the death of Mika Ben. I feel like that was such a gift from his soul to our collective, and he carried the Haitian collective, and he was doing collective work. He was carrying a collective without proper collective support. And when we don't have a collective holding us and we're doing collective work, we can literally collapse and die. And so that was shocking to my system to witness that someone was carrying the collective. So one of the things that we tend to do as Haitian, and it's been ingrained in us, is to really bypass the very important individual healing work that we need to do with the expectation to carry the collective. So it's so important that we start building a collective that can carry those who are doing collective work. And in order to build that collective container, we have to be willing to face some of the pain together to be able to look at it. So a lot of our reaction, while it is showcasing the light, is also an avoidance of looking at, because it's so painful, it's so overwhelming to really look at what is happening. And so while that's happening in the capital and in the areas around it, there's also the rest of Haiti that can use our help to flourish. So one of the things that I'm doing as an extension of tending to the inner garden, is working with a cousin of mine who is an agronomist, because I am from the Northwest, so it's far away from the capital, that it is still a peaceful part of Haiti. So we are literally working on healing this piece of land that we have. And when I saw pictures of it and I saw the erosion, and I said, let's heal that. And he was so excited, and it just so happened that we have the same vision for it. One of the practice that I turn to that helps me a lot is just being in nature, walking, going to botanical gardens, going to the beach. When we connect to nature, it helps to regulate our nervous system. So every time I go to a botanical garden here, I'm always so grateful for the person who built this, who left this legacy.
Yeah.
And so when I saw the land, I thought, oh, I want to turn it into a mini sanctuary, like a mini botanical garden.
Beautiful.
But I didn't want to overwhelm my cousin. And he told me, when he shared his vision with me, it was identical. And I feel like because of the deep lineage healing work that I have done, now I'm paired up with someone. He's actually my second cousin. There's someone in the line where we just happen to share an identical vision. And as we began to work on healing this land, I said to him, if we restore just our land, that's not going to be enough. Let's restore the entire neighborhood. And now the neighbors are getting involved. So before we even continue working on our land, we're putting gabion walls to prevent erosion along the ravines to
That's
help this
beautiful.
road.
Oh, that's
And
beautiful.
yeah, and it doesn't cost. I'm actually so surprised by how little it costs to do this.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I think one of our tendencies is sometimes we look at the bigness of the problem and then we freeze.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah,
take action.
yeah.
Whereas if each person, and that's this whole tending to the inner garden too, is if every day you tend, if each person did something small,
Yeah.
before we know it, we would see changes. But we sometimes, and that's what happened when we bypass the individual work, when we bypass our own neighborhood, when we bypass our own lineage work, and we go into the collective. Then
Yes.
the collective current is too strong. It'll pull us under. And so it would behoove us to start healing and to do our best not to bypass, and then to start creating the collective containers that
Yes.
we need.
Yes.
Because we need them.
Yes. Yes. Wow. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Now, final thoughts, Dr. V. Final thoughts.
Yes.
Any final thoughts? Please share them with us.
Oh my, we said so much. My final thought would be to encourage everyone to fall in love with the boring, consistent practice that it takes to heal. A lot of time we think that is going to be a big retreat, a big reaction at a retreat, and usually these things are re-traumatizing. They're opening things that may be too big for our nervous system to handle. But if we're okay with the daily boring task of connecting to the body, of connecting to our emotion, of feeling our feelings, of speaking from a place of authenticity, of identifying, okay, this is a false self, what is behind that, of sitting with the anger, sitting with the shame, of speaking openly like we're doing now. If we can fall in love with consistent, boring practices, we'll be amazed by the level of healing that's possible.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. Deep breath. This episode was titled Sacred Rage and the Soft Rebellion. I was honored to be I felt like you hosted me. I was like a kid learning, but I was honored to be accompanied by the radiant and wisdom found in the voice of Dr. Valency Esquisse, also known as V. And she was my acupuncturist for many years. She's a trauma informed practitioner, licensed acupuncturist, retreat facilitator, and speaker. She also developed a detox and multivitamins, and don't think I forgot, for specifically targeting people suffering from diabetes. She's always been a botanist, that as she's talking about right now. So I'm not surprised by anything she's discussed today or tonight, depending on when you're listening. Now, for those of you listening, I want to leave you with this. What is the rage between your silence? What would happen if you gave yourself permission to feel it? Not alone, but in community. V, before we close, we take another deep breath. Affirm who you are, that you are. Your grounding practice, if you have any grounding practice that you'd like to share, you can. I want to invite people to your space. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to speak again. So, for the listeners, if today's episode stirred something in you, share it, speak on it, journal it, sit with it, and subscribe. This is the real work, and I'm here in sisterhood in lockstep with you. The rebellion doesn't always look like war. Sometimes it looks like telling the truth, even if your voice shakes. Fear is will always be lingering. Ask yourself, are you brave enough or do you love yourself enough to do the work? So I'm going to ask you to subscribe to the Empress Addi podcast wherever you listen. You can also visit me at www.addicassius.com. Also, please follow Dr. Valenci Exius. Please tell them what you got going on, what businesses you have, how they can visit your new practice. Give them your handle. Do that because I want you to learn more about this beautiful soul and her healing work. Go ahead, Dr. Valenci.
Oh, thank you so much, Addi. I am in a beautiful space of transition. I still see patients. I still have my private practice of seeing patients independently within a group practice. And for that, for the people in South Florida, the website is acupuncturefortlauderdale.com. And I am currently in Pembroke Pines. I also do the tending to the inner garden. I can do tending to the inner garden one-on-one. I love to do it in groups.
Do you still do acupuncture? I'm sorry, do you still do acupuncture? Not acupuncture, I meant chakra healing work with the crystals?
Oh, yes, I do acupuncture, herbal medicine, meditation, balancing the chakras. I certified in Reiki. I don't do Reiki sessions, but I'm connected to the energy. So my work is clinical, it's pristinely spiritual, and I also co-facilitate retreats. So if someone is doing a retreat and they would like me to participate, I have a series of workshops that I offer, including a really exciting one, which is an herbal mixing station, and as well as tending
Ooh.
to the inner garden.
Okay, so how can people reach you? How can people reach you? Because we need to talk after this. We
Okay.
will build that retreat that I was talking about. And
Oh, yes.
and please, what I'd like you to do right now is tell the people how they can reach you.
I'm going to give you my office cell phone, and the best and easiest way to reach me is to text me. It's 954 390 0411. 954 390 0411. That's the office number. You can also text me. And when you text me, in fact, I invite you to text me right now so that I can send you the link to my online calendar, which has all of my offering.
That is
So
perfect. Give it again.
954
Give the number.
390.
Hold on 1 second. Give the number again. That is perfect. Good thinking. Here you go. Give the number now.
Yes, 954 390 0411. And I will send you the link to my online calendar with all of my offerings and how we can work together.
So, if somebody wanted to follow you on social media, how would they find you? What's your handle on IG or Facebook or TikTok, or which one do you prefer?
I am more active on IG, but I haven't been actively promoting, but you'll get a good sense of who I am by going to at Valencie, VALENCIEE. It's my first name and my last initial. That's actually my personal IG. I have a business one that I post even less, and that's at Regulate My Health. And I have lots of things coming up. I'm writing a book. I am creating so many things. I'm super excited to share all of these things with you.
Awesome. I want to say thank you. And
Oh, and thank you.
from the depth of my heart, I appreciate you, and you are a sister, and and it's been so many years, and we picked up the phone like it was yesterday, and that's the kind of sisterhood that I have, and I am truly grateful for that. And you are amongst them, Queen. And I thank you for being on the Empress Addi podcast. We are here. We are here. Check me out, www.addicassius.com. Please share and leave a comment, engage with the conversation. Who knows? Maybe we'll have Dr. V back. Dr. V is chock full of information. She is brilliant and licensed in Eastern medicine. Please give her a call. I want to give your number one more time before I head out. I want that to be the last thing in their consciousness. Dr. V, if you'll please do me the honor, give them the phone number to reach you one more time, and I appreciate you before I sign out.
Thank you so much, Addi. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for creating the space for me to express and share verbally. And thank you for creating the podcast. I heard your first episode and it inspired me to share more and to express myself in the way that I did. I would love to return anytime you let me know. I would love to be here.
That's
The
beautiful.
number to reach me is 954-390-0411. 954-390-0411. Please text me and I will get back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, V. Oh man, I have goosebumps. Thank you so
Oh my
much.
goodness.
Yeah, I have goosebumps, and I appreciate you. I do, because I am that gregarious hermit, and I know that I need to do better at keeping in touch and staying connected and building the collective. And that's what this is all about. I know, in even in my absence, regardless of what I'm going through, I am one of those. I can seclude myself in my own space and I'm fine. And so I think we have to make a concerted effort to remain connected. And so I called you up and you were ready for the same day, and we were just on it. And then we realized, okay, life is happening right now and we need to give some grace to the universe. And yesterday was the full moon in Scorpio, and get it. We are actually in fire, and our appearance is water to keep things calm. But we know there's a lot going on. We have the mask on. I know it, and I feel it, and I feel it, and I feel it. And so my heart and my energy is with every person in the diaspora that is suffering for, or in a time of tightness and trouble and in uncertainty and apprehension. I'm with them. I'm with you. And that's where I'm at. So that's why it's important to talk about these things, and they affect every single one of us. So I appreciate you, my sister. You are a queen. You keep doing what you do, and I will be here to promote anything you got going on. Thank you so much. And to those listening, thank you so much for being with us. We are here in the space. This is the Empress Addi podcast, and I'm saying au revoir, which means, yeah, till next time, boo. Bye.